What do you make of kind of the Leafs transactions over the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, I mean it's kind of been a weird off season. You know, you see Mitch Marner leave, obviously huge hole, and it's just the way they've been doing it. Actually, I think some pretty good bets. You know, a guy like Matthias Michelli. We just see Dakota Joshua coming in here, Nicholas Waugh, and it feels like, you know, they're building a better bottom six here. But obviously without the ability to replace Marner, which of course he can't really, unless like there's just not many options out there. So it's been interesting, but I liked a lot of what they've done at the bottom of the lineup, and still I'm sure there's still moves to be made before we get to game one of the season. But kind of a bit of a weird off season, I guess, so far for the Leafs.
What would you make that third line look like if you could run the team?
I don't know. I'm certainly intrigued by the possibility of Nicholas Waugh and Dakota Joshua together, the size they would have, the ability to play physically and to kind of soak up. You know what, you guys are talking coming in about how, you know, Austin Matthews, what kind of season he's going to have, who he's going to play with. And with the way the lineup's coming together, maybe, you know, he won't be needed to be relied upon to play quite as many defensive zone starts and kind of matchup roles. Certainly, they're going to lean on him a lot for those top-line matchups, but maybe you can free him up a little bit more if you have a responsible line led by Nicholas Waugh and even a Scott Laughton maybe led fourth line that can soak up some defensive zone starts, and you can create more opportunities for a Nyes, Matthews, and whoever, maybe it's Domi over there, line to really do some damage offensively. So I think that there's going to be a bit more, maybe you'll lose the high-end skill of Marner, but maybe a bit more flexibility to make the whole lineup a little bit more effective.
Yeah, that's going to be the question. Like, again, we're focusing so much on depth players, and they're important. But, what we just stumbled across is ultimately what's going to determine what happens here, Mark. And you've been around Matthews his whole career. How do you expect him to handle the absence of Marner?
I think he'll handle it fine. I mean, the big question is health. He says he's going to be healthy, right? That's what he said the locker cleanout day, assuming he's back to being the guy who's a, Hart Trophy candidate, 60-plus goal scorer. I expect him to be fine playing with Matthew Nyes, whoever's over there, as you said. If anything, I imagine he'll be emboldened, to take even more ownership. He got the C last summer. Now Mitch Marner's gone. I mean, just kind of take control, do your thing. I expect him to come back with a vengeance next season and just be even more motivated to do his thing. He's the best goal scorer that we've seen in this generation. So huge expectations for him next season. I imagine he's going to meet him.
Mark, if Craig Berube called you up this summer, and maybe he has already, it could happen, or he texted you, and he said, who do you think I should play on that right side with Matthews? Because you and I both know he didn't like, and maybe hate is too strong, but he was pretty much against playing Nylander with Matthews really like the entire year, even in the playoffs when Marner Matthews wasn't really working. So if he called you and he said, who should I play there? Who is it?
I'd put Domi there. That he and Matthews work well. And I'm sure there's some reluctance, right? The reason maybe Nylander didn't get a long look with Matthews or a longer look with Matthews is just the preference to play Matthews against top lines and in defensive situations. And maybe you don't want Nylander there. Maybe you don't want Domi there, of course. But there's no perfect answer to the question right now. There's no perfect player to slot in there. So I would go, Domi got off to, as we know, did not have a great year last year. I go to him and say, I'm putting you in a prominent spot. You played well with Matthews. You get this chance to start. Go to work. That's what I would do. Matthews and Nyes have good chemistry. Domi and Matthews have played well in the past. And then, Tavares and Nylander, you should have another effective line there. And then you build out from there and you hope you have a good kind of shutdown third line that you can, entrust to the defensive matchups. And that's what I would do. That's at least how I would start. And obviously things are going to bounce around, but you've got to get more out of Domi during the regular season next year. And I think that's a great way to do it as well.
Masters, I've been screaming all the way from Edmonton that the Leafs need to get a puck-moving D. They don't have enough of it, or they have maybe one. These guys aren't exactly biting. Jonas is nodding his head now, like, yeah, I'm with you, Struddy. But what do you say, Masters? Are you happy with what they have there, or do they need the guy I gave an example to is Shane Gothenspier. Not saying they can get him or he's the perfect guy, but quick puck moving, get it up to this group of forwards.
Yeah, I mean, Brad Treliving acknowledged that. in his postmortem of the season is that they'd like a little bit more of that element on the back end. It's just everyone's kind of locked in on the defensive side, and they focus so much on trying to fill some holes up front that it's kind of been a forgotten thing. Like, everyone's locked in there. A lot of questions about Morgan Riley. He's obviously got the no-move clause. Maybe he gets a bounce back. I suspect he'll be back on the top power play unit with Marner moving on as the quarterback. We'll see. Obviously, he's been there in the past. Maybe you can, with 1 year under his belt with Craig Berube's system, he'll be a bit more comfortable and can just, be more of himself. It's a question mark for sure, but they have lacked that, and it doesn't look like there's an easy answer to that question either. But I would agree that they could use that. It certainly was evident that it was lacking. That said, I still think they have the pieces to make a really good defense core, and maybe that's something that they have to address during the season at some point here, see how things play out. Same as with the top six forward that they need. It might take some time for all the pieces to go into place. I like that Trey Living's been patient here and seems to be willing to be patient, not rush into anything, not make a mistake, and just wait for the right piece to kind of become clear, or the right option to become clear.
Who is going to have more points next season, Austin Matthews or Mitch Marner? And we thought we'd float that out, something to chew on. And Jonas, you can take the floor. I'm sure you've thought of this. Who do you think will have more points next year, Matthews or Marner?
I have not thought about this, so I don't. Matthews.
Haven't thought about that.
No.
Okay, well that's even better. Then you got to go in clean. Can't pump in the
Matthews
stats. Can't
Marner.
consider any of the projections.
I would take Marner.
You'd go with Mitch.
Why is that?
It's a good question because Marner's more a point producer, and I mean the funny thing is Matthews has more points. Yeah, but I think of Marner. I don't know, like he just is able to kind of stack up points easier because of he gets so many assists. Mm-hmm. I don't know what effect him not being on the team, on Marner's line, on the power, or on Matthews' line on the power play is going to have on Matthews. I don't know what impact it's going to have on the team as a whole, goal scoring wise. I don't know. Like if I was projecting next year for Marner, I would guess like he'll have like 95 to 99 points. Mm-hmm. And if I was going to guess on Matthews, I guess I would do like 90 to 95.
Okay. So you're on Mitch. All right. Strutty, do you have an answer on that?
Yeah, you know what? I'm going to agree with Jonas as I usually do. But
A-team.
This is why. So I believe that Marner's going to a situation he'll be more comfortable with because he gets to play with a really strong center that he can work with, and they can get him the puck and vice versa. Whereas with Matthews, he doesn't have someone, at least clear to me, who's going to be playing beside him there. He'll have Nyes for sure, and maybe Nyes will take more of a role as far as carrying the puck or having the puck more than he has in the past when those other two guys are on the ice. So I think for Marner, the transition will be cleaner and simpler because Jack Eichel, although he's a righty, should be able to get him the puck more often and play a bit more catch with him rather than what Matthews is dealing with now with the group he has.
Now, Eichel is more of a I consider him more of a playmaker than a pure shooter.
That's interesting.
Now, that's the thing. And that has been brought up. Some people have brought that up in terms of talking about Vegas, is that they don't have a lot of pure goal scorers there. They got a lot of playmakers, but, a lot of guys that want to pass first as opposed to shoot first. If you include Eichel and Hurdle and Stone, and, that's obviously their big four up front. I think it'll be very close. I question whether or not Marner is going to put up the same amount of points based on the history of the Vegas Golden Knights, where there just isn't generally guys who put up massive numbers. We talked about this multiple times last year. Eichel set a franchise record last year, albeit they've only been around for a decade.
Well, and they haven't had a guy like him, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess so. I mean,
like who would you say who is that? Eichel?
Eichel's a better player than Mitch Marner, though. Like Eichel,
right?
So they've had better players, and he's a center.
But in terms of like his ability to stack up points, here's the question I have: like, Hayes, if you were going to project, how many goals do you think Matthews scores next year?
I think he's going to hit 50.
Okay, so
I'm going to lean into him having a big bounce back year.
Fair, I agree with that. So let's say he scores 50, right? Mm-hmm. Is he going to get 45 assists? Like, who is he setting up? Like, where?
Well, I mean, this is where, again, the first power play, if he's out there with Nylander, who's one of the 7 or 8 best goal scorers in the league.
But he's a shooter on the power play generally.
Generally, yeah. But he's still, you pick up secondary assists, you move the puck around. Like on the power play, I hear what you're saying, but like, so is Draisaitl. Draisaitl racks up assists.
But he's a better passer than Matthews. And like when Matthews had the 107 points?
He's had 107 and 106.
And I think those were both, actually I know, those were both 60-goal seasons.
Big goal scoring years.
So like if that's going to happen, if he's going to have 60 goals, which is possible, like he'll probably...
If he ends up with 60 goals, he'll have more points than Mitch Marner.
Yes.
Like
sure.
I have no doubt in that. Now, I'm not sure he's going to hit 60 again in his career. Like that, those are...
Ever?
I don't know if he will. I mean, again, he's going into his 10th year. He's not young. Now Marner's gone. I wonder where his priorities go in terms of, team first, defense, load management. It's an Olympic year. He's going to play a lot of hockey. I don't know.